I'd say I was one of the premier racists in Australia.
For a while now, the fake news media has been in an unholy crusade against the growing Australian nationalist movement. Since engaging in a battle of ideas is too hard for them, and they always lose when they try anyway, their strategy has centred on lies, dishonest character attacks, nothing burger gotchas, and childish tabloid exposés. Many in the fake news media even implicitly endorse physical assault upon those they disagree with, but that's another story. The ABC, in partnership with the Sydney Morning Herald, recently produced a piece of tabloid gold entitled "Married to the Alt-Right." In this train wreck, they sat down with two so-called former members of the nationalist movement who were ready to confess their grievous crimes against the establishment. From the Sydney Morning Herald, and I quote, "A joint Herald-ABC investigation has identified several Australians within a previously hidden online world, where racists post memes, share gun pictures, and discuss real-life meetings." Justin Bueller,
remember me,
was a young Liberal university student at the time of the 2017 messages. He and his now wife Lisa Sanford, a former One Nation member, then joined a far-right attempt to branch stack the New South Wales Young Nationals last year. The couple say they have abandoned the toxic white supremacy movement and urge others to do the same. End quote. In other words, they were bad, evil, toxic people who turned down the dark path of national and European ethnic pride. Then, one day they saw the error of their ways and have since returned to the side of the good, at least according to the satanic leftist establishment. It's a globo-homo journalist's wet dream. Someone changed their mind in a way they like. Let that be a lesson to you normal people what happens when you dare let wrongthink take over. Diversity is our strength. God knows the left have lost on every possible front lately, and the nationalist movement will only grow from here. Hence the reason the establishment are lashing out. But I digress. The true gold in this story didn't come from the Herald article. It came in the current affairs style disaster of an interview. Both protagonists, Justin Bueller and his new wife, Lisa Sanford,
remember me,
sat down and confessed their sins on camera to an ABC inquisitor, proving once again that when it comes to the old media, the narrative always trumps genuine storytelling. Just a quick message. Whether it's an algorithm hiding content or outright deletion, internet censorship is on the rise. Please consider following me on free speech websites Gab, Minds and BitChute. I'm constantly posting content and they are a great way to stay notified of uploads. Can't wait to see you there.
How can we know that you're not trolling all of us by saying
Because
that you don't believe this anymore?
This is not how you do it.
We've invited you into our home.
You know, if a real white nationalist wouldn't give you a serious interview. And I can tell you that for a fact.
This would be a good point, if it wasn't complete and utter bullcrap. Blair Cottrell is arguably Australia's most famous patriot. As the fake news media would say, he's a leader of the far right. He's appeared on the ABC's Hack Live at least twice as far as I know, and got Adam Giles put into the naughty corner for daring to ask reasonable questions and treat him fairly. He's appeared on several alt media channels, including, but not limited to, James Fox Higgins' The Rational Rise, Dia Squeaky Beltran's show, and the best show in the history of YouTube,
Matty Rose Live,
where we go live each Monday evening from roughly 9:15 unless otherwise specified. Subscribe today. Link in the description. The leader of Lad Society, Tom Sewell, published a full response to this non-story where he stated, and I quote, "After becoming involved in the nationalist scene, myself and other nationalists have done many interviews with the ABC and journalists who worked for the ABC over the years and never once had anything published. For example, after being asked to be on J Hack Live and having conducted a live radio interview the day before, I found out that it was on a delay and quickly removed from the news cycle so that it could never be heard. When my seat on the Hack Live TV program was also removed, I quickly realised that it was no conspiracy that the media wants to completely control the narrative, and that narrative was clear. Only stupid or extremely irrational people on our side of politics get airtime, with the exception that occasionally Fraser Anning or Blair get airtime with a controversial remark." End quote. I even sat down with Tom Sewell for a full and serious interview at the start of the year. Link in the description. I know these fake news journalists have seen it too because they literally used a screenshot from it in a pathetic hit piece on Sewell. They credit it to YouTube for some reason. Learn to journalism, people. So contrary to the Mr. Bueller claim, a claim that the ABC happily ran without challenging, nationalists have indeed done a number of serious interviews, not just on the mainstream media, but all over the new media, otherwise known as the honest media. It's mainstream fake news propagandists that won't sit down for serious discussions. They'd rather run childish hit pieces than lose a real debate.
The way they determine if you're white or like of descent is your veins. If they can show on the back of your skin, that means you're white enough.
Here's a picture of two hands. Look closely at both. Which one has visible veins? Now have a guess which one of these hands is a white person's hand and which isn't. Lisa's logic says the hand on the right belongs to the white person, but that hand belongs to my wife, who's mestizo-Colombian and only has around 50% European heritage. The hand on the left is mine, and I'm 100% European, as far as I know. So in response to Lisa's claim,
"You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real."
You were homophobic, anti-Semitic and racist.
Yep. At the time of those messages, 100%.
I accuse myself of being racist, a misogynist, a homophobe, and once I even slapped a puppy. All hail multiculturalism, all hail globo homo.
How big is the white supremacist / alt-right kind of movement in Australia?
No one knows. The far right is just a bunch of people talking. Whether it doesn't matter what platform they're on, they're just talking to each other.
this is an interesting admission. For the most part, it's true. At this point, the nationalist movement is just people meeting and exchanging ideas, as well as working on self-improvement and going to the gym and things like that. Strangely, the media seem extremely worried about a group of people who are simply sitting around discussing things. It's almost like nationalist ideas resonate with the public and thus represent a genuine threat to the far-left globalist narrative.
What was it like being a woman in that neo-Nazi movement?
Unkind. I remember them saying, just do as your husband says, do as your partner says. You should listen to, you're a male authority, you should do this.
This is interesting. In the full interview, Lisa claims she began as an anti-feminist, and at the start of it actually says this.
I would say that I'm a conservative Christian, and I also have very strong passions for traditional family values as well as traditional homemaking values as well. I came from the anti-feminist movement, the MRA movement, the men's rights activist movement.
She claims to be a conservative Christian, then complains when the nationalist movement encouraged her to respect traditional roles in a marriage, just as a conservative Christian woman would. Which is it, Lisa? Are you a Christian who respects traditional roles in a marriage as the Bible and nature dictates, or are you a feminist fighting for the rights of the women's? Tom Sewell had an extensive response to Lisa's strange claim, and I quote, The very first conversation I had with Lisa, she asked what women could do to help the movement, and her subsequent questions made it apparent that she believed she should have a leadership role within the organisation on the basis of her gender. My response to her was that women should focus on living the 14 words, as often people in our scene in the past and even to this day espouse views of creating a better society without at any point doing anything to make themselves a better person. They talk a lot about the 14 words, but show little or no action. I believe the roles of women in a movement are simple but important. Focus on self-improvement, be fit and healthy, develop skills in education, both formally and informally, master something and then master another, find an honourable man who shares the same values you do and force him to improve and grow, be a leader. If you are knowledgeable and charismatic, you can make content to improve the moral, intellectual and aesthetic of our cause, and lastly, build an empire, a strong family." End quote. So she was encouraged to find a strong man with good values, develop herself, support her man while encouraging him to grow, and most of all, raise a large and strong family. The horror of it all. This poor girl. It must have been so difficult for her to deal with all that pressure to be a real woman and a pillar of the community. It just got all too hard, I guess. Soon after Lisa's contradictory comment, the communist interrogator asked Neville about everyone's favourite security agency.
Tell me, what contact have you guys had with ASIO?
We just had, we can't really discuss that.
Well, I got a beer, and that was about it.
Yeah.
So they were trying to find out if you knew of anyone who might be violent within the white supremacist movement.
Yeah, basically. It's just...
And we didn't know anyone.
It's strange that the ABC left this one in there, because it flies in the face of the whole evil far-right are terrible narrative. Along with his earlier comments, Justine essentially just admitted that the nationalist community is a peaceful movement of people who don't like the direction of the nation and want to discuss ways to change it. Don't expect the left to realise this, or ever admit it if they did. They are hell-bent on pushing the "if whoites advocate for whoites, they must be evil and far-right" narrative, no matter how idiotic it is to reasonable people. In fact, they confirmed the recent report on Tom Sewell by the far left when they hilariously tried to claim he made threats but only succeeded in proving Lad Society are a peaceful group of community builders. They even reported that Brenton Tarrant refused to join the club because of this very fact. Obviously, this was by accident, because the narrative painted the complete opposite picture to the objective truth. Meanwhile, our country benefits from ever-increasing African crime plaguing our major cities as the parasite class sit by and do nothing about it. We also get creeping Sharia and Islamic terror, because what would diversity be without an increased threat to our security? Most of all, we get to enjoy gridlock traffic and cultural displacement through mass immigration from Asia. Oh, and if you say this is a bad thing, then you're an ultra mega extreme far right, racist, Nazi, supreme pizza. And you should lose your job and ability to buy and sell for not embracing it. All hail the beast. But once again, I digress.
So when did you both decide that you no longer have white supremacist views?
I'd say it's not something you just decide one day. It's something that takes time, to go from being a normal kid to being radicalized takes months, years. Same thing the other way. You start to meet more people, you start to see things that are challenging to your worldview, slowly and starts to crumble.
It's just not like all Muslims are terrorists. For me, there's some really nice Muslims. I would travel to Singapore and I went to a mosque there, and I was respectful. I wore a hijab, I covered myself, because that's what you do in another country. You be respectful of their culture. And I met a lot of people and they were very nice, and it changed it challenged my worldview, and it changed what I saw the world in.
Tom Sewell had this to say about Lisa's claims, and I quote, "Lisa was not very popular in our movement because information had arisen that she was once a Muslim convert who lived in a Southeast Asian country with a man and his wife, and that she was due to be the man's second wife." In the ABC's interview, she commented, I paraphrase, that one of her reasons for turning away from our worldview was because she travelled to a Muslim nation, she met Muslim people, she wore the hijab, and suddenly realised that we were completely wrong. End quote. Very interesting indeed. The ABC lapped this up because it fits their favoured story of evil racist has racist views, experiences other cultures, and magically comes back changed. The problem with this narrative is that's not how things work. Sure, there are probably a few people with hateful views who met people not of their tribe and realised they were just human, but there is another, less spoken of process. That is, contact with foreign people and cultures causing increased in-group preference. This is literally what you are seeing when you observe white flight. White people are fleeing migrant-dominated suburbs to remain with their own people. While most would probably never tell the truth about this, that they want to be around people like themselves, actions do speak louder than words. A 2014 study on how contact with racial outsiders affects attitudes towards them found that simulated demographic pressures makes people far more exclusionary in their attitudes. From the National Academy of Sciences of the United States of America, and I quote, "Testing the causal effects of repeated intergroup contact in which Spanish-speaking Confederates were randomly assigned to be inserted for a period of days into the daily routines of unknowing Anglo-whites living in homogenous communities in the United States, thus simulating the conditions of demographic change. The result of this experiment is a significant shift towards exclusionary attitudes among treated subjects. This experiment demonstrates that even very minor demographic change causes strong exclusionary reactions." End quote. When push comes to shove, we overwhelmingly prefer to associate with people like ourselves. Accusing anyone of immorality for expressing their nature in this way is genuinely disgusting. Sewell summed this story up nicely, and I quote, "In summary, the media loves morons like Justin and Lisa who hang themselves in front of the public in an attempt to grovel for acceptance back into the multi-culti establishment. They love making examples of people as well as degenerating our people. This also gives them ammunition to attack problem personalities instead of having a serious debate about our ideas. Not that the death cult of globalism would ever debate heretics on the matter of their unholy scriptures. So well done. Our movement is one of love. We love our culture, our history, its beauty, strength and honour. To love something, you must hate that which threatens it. We must be absolutely intolerant and despise anything that threatens the memory of our ancestors, what they built and our future." End quote. So as for this,
every hour of every day is hate. Every hour of every day. And I purposely filled my mind with as much hate as humanly possible.
Goodbye and good riddance to bad rubbish. I hope you enjoyed the video, share the truth around, and I'll see ya when I see ya.
And it's never too late to come.
What you do in like another country, you be respectful of their culture. Be respectful of their culture.
Be respectful of their culture.